And I was going to say as well, like, obviously we had a semi-conf lab back and forth on I Shall Speed when he did the thing with...
Gian Infantino.
And we disagreed on that, right? Because I thought, look, right, because it's easy to kick FIFA and go, oh, that fell a little forced. But I thought, at least they did it, right? Because many people talk about it and don't actually bother doing anything. But I also stand on your point of view, because I was sat there thinking...
It was cringe.
What a minute.
Trying was high when I
What a minute surprise. Welcome to The Attention Shift, a podcast where sports media gets debated like a VAR decision. Passionately, chaotically, and with none of us fully agreeing on the outcome, right?
Inspired by something that I read this week about DAZN and the Club World Cup that's happening now. DAZN has done a deal with a load of creators. They've launched this global football creator program designed to build fan engagement. 100 digital creators signed up. Total audience of 32 million. Now, we know a creator's going to save sport. Everybody's looking to creators as the great saviors. Rights owners don't really know how to talk to social first fans, but creators do. But why are they relying on creators so much? Is it sustainable? Is it going to work? Is it going to fail? What do you reckon?
That's loaded.
That's a very good question. Considering we all write about this all the time on LinkedIn, this feels like a very loaded question.
Do you want to go first, Lee? You look like you were...
I will go and... Look, I think, as we all know, it's a good idea, right? Does this smell a bit of desperation? Probably. I mean, no, it's
There's two former employees of that.
Yeah. I mean, we've both worked for DAZN, so I feel we can say that. It's not their problem. I think it's the Club World Cup's problem. I think it's a FIFA problem. I think, yes, you need creators. I mean, we've talked about it when they clicked it off with the Club World Cup. You know, they're doing all some cool stuff. 32 million does not seem a lot of followers for FIFA.
For 100 creators.
For 100 creators feels low. I think the bigger question which you asked is, are they there to save? I think they're there to help save sport and football. Are they the only way of doing it? I think it's not. You know, if you're just relying on creators, it's not a good model. It's
No. Why are they so powerful, though? Why is everybody looking to creators as a sports business? I feel like I'm interviewing you two. But I know you've got views on this. Why are they looking to creators? What do they do that the sports media business isn't able to do?
I think they're authentic. I think they have a conversation with their, I was going to say, audience, fans, followers, all of the above. They think about the way that they create content with the idea that the audience will help them to drive the editorial narrative. So, I've had this conversation with friends of mine at various age ranges who I wouldn't even think would watch that kind of content. Yeah. And they said it feels like they're in a coffee shop having a conversation or down the pub. It's more conversational. It's more community orientated. So, look, it makes sense that they go to these kind of people to help them to distribute different types of content because they talk like fans. They are fans. Yeah. That's where they came from. And look, and everyone can have all their different opinions on Speed and Mark Goldbridge and Robbie at Arsenal Fan TV in terms of how they do things. But ultimately, from my experience speaking to some of these people, you know, they're passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they get what fans want. Yeah.
For me, what it shows is that sports media still really is in broadcast mode. Yeah. And when you think about what the word broadcast actually means, it means talking shouting to the audience, which what you've just said is true. You know, creators have grown up on platforms, particularly YouTube, where they have dialogue.
It's a two-way conversation.
It's a two-way conversation.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. And it comes back to this now, particularly with younger people, but all of us, we want this participatory relationship with media, don't we?
Sense of belonging.
We don't want to just receive the messages all the time. So this is what creators have done. But why is sports broadcast? Why do they struggle with that? Is it just that they're set in the ways?
It was interesting because I'd read the same thing that was obviously we were chatting about as soon as we saw it, right? And the release, and I don't know if this was changed afterwards, but it talked about impressions and it didn't talk about engagement. Yeah, because there's still, I think, the traditional ad world, right, is very much about reach, not necessarily about engagement, and that's what ad money's being paid on. Yeah. And I think ultimately, why are they chasing after this? Because a lot of these people have reach, right? And then when I look at it and you look at, you know, the number of creators and the actual reach, someone like a Mark Goldbridge, who's not part of that as far as I'm aware, I don't understand why someone like that is then not part of that conversation. And obviously he's not here to answer for himself. And at some point, I'm sure we'll be able to get him on to talk about what he does. But I think it was telling to me that the impression and not necessarily the engagement side of things.
But that's it, isn't it? I think that's the point is that you said it, Joe. It's like traditional broadcasters, it's broadcast in a single way. It's broadcast in a single commentary. It's a lean back experience, and it's not changed for the last 30 years in terms of the way that it's sent to you. Then you've got this new generation, or not just new generation, you've got people like Mark, right, who are creators who are having a conversation which you used to have down the pub, right? And I think that's it, right? This is the difference was that
or in WhatsApp groups.
You used to go down the pub to watch the game, right? That was our way of going to watch the football on a Saturday, right? You go down the pub with your mates, there'd be a load of other people in the bar, you'd get chatting to them, they might be rival fans, you'd have a bit of a laugh. That's now happening on social, right? Or YouTube or wherever it is. Whereas it doesn't happen in the pub anymore. And if you're a broadcaster, you're still advertising or delivering it to your TV at home or to a pub that's now empty. And that's the bit, and I think that's why it resonates. I think it's that sense of belonging, that sense of community, and getting your voice heard.
And it's interesting because you'll hear some people saying you can't build community on social channels. Well, that's rubbish, because all you've got to do is watch Goldbridge, and he's reading his super chats and he's responding to people who were posting messages. So I mean, and that means something, right? You know,
people will pay just so they notice that Mark responds to them.
Yeah, completely. And there's such a reward in that. But again, when you read those comments as well, even if you're not necessarily participating yourself, you do feel part of that conversation. I've been doing the same with Baller League. I watch Baller League, or I have been for the last 12 weeks, on a Monday night on YouTube. And I have the comments just scrolling, because sometimes they're just downright hilarious. But again, you just feel part of it. Everybody's got an opinion. They're talking about a goal or a decision. And it's like a virtual being in the pub with mates. Like, and it really adds to it.
But also, you've got your phone, right? So most people are now second screen, right? Where they're looking at the data. You can get all your highlights. Now people are experts, you know, or even if you're a casual fan, you can find something out pretty quick. Whereas you don't need to be talked to as from a broadcaster, just, this is what I need to tell you, you know. And it's like, that's the bit I think that why they're doing it is the right reason. I think where you've kind of pretexted at the beginning, which was, are they doing this using content creators? Is it the right move? Yes, it is. Are they doing it in the right way? Are they delivering it in the right way? Are they doing it because they feel they should be doing it? I think that's probably a different question. Are they implementing it in the way that we would do it potentially?
My worry is, though, much as I love creators and the creator economy, is this just outsourcing reach and engagement again? Because you've got rights owners that traditionally have just given their media or sold their media rights to someone else, Sky Sports, TNT, whatever. Now they're doing the same with creators as a distribution channel. Why do they not feel able to manage this kind of stuff themselves? It either smacks of laziness, or it really belies the fact that they actually don't know how to reach their audiences.
I just think, I think it's not. I think it's just the world is so vast now, and there's so much going on. I had a similar conversation with someone today about like this. It's almost like the greatest time to be alive if you're a content creator, but also one of the hardest, because there's so many things you can do. And what's the best thing to do? What's the best way to go? And I think the difficulty is for me, when I think about legacy media, and we work with some of the legacy media organizations, we'll do some really good stuff, is obviously they've got a structure they can put in place, which, bricks and mortar, people, they have to produce things in a certain kind of way because they've already invested in all of that. So that ability to then move at speed makes it really, really difficult for them. But they're trying to look, Sky's trying with Baller League, right? Baller League's been distributed the way it's been distributed. So it's on its own channels, it's via KSI's channels, it's via Mark's channels.
Angry Ginge,
But also it's going out on broadcast media too in a linear fashion. I don't know what the numbers are, what the split is.
About 1 million, I think they got about roughly 1 million views on Sky, roughly. And then you're probably getting another 1 million each per creator. It's on YouTube and Twitch. I think the last time I had, they're averaging sometimes.
It'd be interesting to see what they were in aggregate. I mean, the concurrence, you could see the concurrence actually changing. When Angry Ginge and United were playing, you'd see the concurrence go up.
But also what we need to look at as well is, and obviously we don't get access to that kind of information, is what is the demographic of the people watching it on Sky Linear versus those? Because if it's reaching an older demographic or a different demographic, then they're indexing where they need to index with ad money. So it potentially then it's serving a purpose. And like I said, look, we'll never get those numbers. But I assume that's why they're doing it, because it's reaching an audience that they're not currently reaching on their own channels.
Isn't it the same reason why we podcast on on YouTube and on your favorite podcasts providers.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, I think what people are realizing now is actually one doesn't cannibalize the other.
Well, no, all boats rise. And it used to be the case that you thought it was cannibalizing, but I mean, it was the same in my old world of kids media. You used to think that if you put content on YouTube, they weren't going to be watching it on Nick Jr. or on CBeebies. And actually now there's absolutely no evidence to show that happens. And if anything, it helps everybody. So I see no reason to believe that it's not the same with sports media. There's a question of distance, I think, with creators as well. Broadcast and traditional media is so far removed from the audience. They schedule it, they dictate when you can watch it, how many times you get to see it on repeat. And then, but creators, it's close, isn't it? It's intimate. It's this parasocial relationship you have with a creator, normally through your phone screen at a distance of, 10 inches. It feels like you're having a chat to a mate again. It's that proximity thing, which I think more traditional broadcasters really struggle with.
I think about it as like, one's broadcasting, another one's casting broadly.
Nice.
I know I've said that before. But I think that's the reality, right? And I think, and look, and that's all that broadcast is, right? It's just casting broadly. The difference being when you go on to these digital social video channels is it can be a community-oriented conversation in a way that obviously broadcasting and traditional linear fashion isn't necessarily built for that. And don't get me wrong, look, lots of people try to do different ways of doing it, and look, we work with a few too doing that. But that's sort of the underlying difference that you find, and the reality is obviously when it's going out on these often free-to-air digital video social channels, anyone can access it, right? Whereas if you want to watch it on Sky, you got to have a subscription, and the kid in the house might not have a subscription, or the parents might not want to watch that particular thing on the subscription box, so they go and watch in the room on an iPad or a mobile or a laptop.
People just feel like they're being, I think that's part of the problem, right? You feel like these 2 minute subscriptions, you're being monetized all the time. You're getting told what you need to watch and how you're going to watch it. And then you've got these creators who, like Mark, who is a watch along, who has no live, you're literally watching with him, but you're feeling part of it because you don't feel like you're being fleeced. You don't feel like someone's telling you what you want. And I think maybe is there a question around, and maybe the FIFA are trying to do the right thing, but not done it right, which is relinquishing your brand equity. Like people are so protective over their brand and their IP, and actually they're so scared of, there's right. Mark is probably not officially endorsed by Man United. Let's put it that way.
No, I reckon not. No.
But should he? But like, for them, he is. That's a good example, right? For them, he is a great ambassador. Because he has the same view as every other fan on a Saturday. Or,
look, I know for a fact there's a healthy respect there that ultimately, he does speak to a very large proportion of Man United fans. So ultimately, they've got to respect the fact that he's got a position that he's built up. And I was going to say as well, like, obviously we had a semi-conflab back and forth on I Shall Speed when he did the thing with...
Gian Infantino.
And we disagreed on that, right? Because I thought, look, right, because it's easy to kick FIFA and go, oh, that fell a little forced. But I thought, at least he did it, right? Because many people talk about it and don't actually bother doing anything. But I also stand on your point of view because I was sat there thinking...
It was cringe.
Yeah.
What a minute. Trying to apply when I was...
What a minute surprise. Just arrived. I didn't expect you.
Oh, look, you've got the Club World Cup with you.
Right, not just turning up. But he did it, right? And he went into it, and he was probably, I imagine when he was told you're doing this, like, don't make me do that.
I mean, he did also see Trump, with the trophy, and you've got to think like Trump's probably got no idea what the football is anyway. I mean, he's trying lots of different angles.
What was nice about that in amongst the cringe is I do think there's a lot of people that dismiss Speed, but he's a genuine football fan, and it comes across no matter what the level was of cringe is when he looks at that being the Club World Cup, or it was that he was presented in the ball.
There's excitement like a small child when he sort of at least he felt like that.
It comes back to being genuine and authentic, doesn't it? I mean, it's such an overused word that, but it comes across, and I think that's what people really relate to. Because again, my focus group of one, my 16-year-old football mad kid, doesn't relate to pundits in a TNT studio. He relates to Speed. He relates to Goldbridge because they talk his language. They communicate in that kind of social first YouTube way. But back to your point about that kind of brand, command and control way of managing brands, which for the past 20 years has just been the way it's been. you had brand managers or whomever that dictated the rules of engagement with the fans. They ran the style guides, what you could do when, And now we have UGC platforms like Roblox and YouTube, where again, you talk about young people demanding this participatory relationship with media. They do want to remix its stuff. They want to stitch. They want to play in the sandbox, which means if you're a brand owner, then you've got to let go. And boy, that's scary for a lot of them. Perhaps too scary for some. I know F1 is really conservative with things like that.
And I think that's the point, isn't it? It's a kind of that relinquishing control, but also like, I guess the worry of this stuff is, are they just doing it for attention? Is this going to be something that is sustainable, that they're going to sustain, past the FIFA Club World Cup into the World Cup or any sort of FIFA thing like that? Are they going to keep this program going? Or is this just sort of like, are they treating it gimmickly?
DAZN specifically or rights owners?
Both, because I think they're both leaning in, right? Like there was the $1 billion deal, right? That kind of happened with all this. They're both so intimately tied together that, that's kind of always, I think that's what people fear about this stuff. I think that's when people say, oh, is it just a flash in the pan? It's because, are they going to commit to it and go beyond it? Are you actually going to commit to a sense of belonging and actually not just do this? You've got the attention now. Are you now going to follow this through, get some serious belonging and create something that's sustainable for when it comes around in 4 years' time? You've now got this massive community that you've built over 4 years to keep it engaged and keep people excited about it. Or are you just going to, after it all goes, oh, that was fun. Oh, we've done so well. Here's some great numbers,
And I don't know, but, again, when Gianni Infantino turns up on the iShowSpeed stream, for me that felt very gimmicky. It doesn't feel like they're really investing in creators as part of it. At least they did it. I get it. All right, I'll acknowledge that.
Not done it.
But to your point, I think you don't speed run it. It's not a quick win. You go and sign up 100 creators like DAZN has done, and think that that's it. That's the panacea. It's all fixed, and then walk away again. Because again, you've got YouTube and social first fans whose radar is so finely attuned to that, they will see that that's disingenuous. They can smell it a mile away. And I think it's a really good point. What I am interested to hear from you is whether you think it's going to lead to subscriptions.
Interesting. Well, they can't sell tickets, so be interested if they sell some.
Well, not for this. Not for this. It's all free. I mean, I have been watching some games on there, and obviously you can watch the quality you can watch, or you can watch the enhanced version with a subscription. And look, I don't think that many people are going to do it, but look, we could be totally wrong on that.
Do you think creators can sell subscriptions though?
Ooh. That's the age old, isn't it? About how do you off-platform?
Well, I think I think that you have to look at it as like we said, we used to do stuff for DAZN, so we can comment in the past. We can't comment on how it's done in the present. But like, I was there when we launched in the US, right? And the issue that they had in the US was that in every other territory they'd launched, when DAZN had launched in DAC with Bundesliga's rights in the Champions League, in Italy with Serie A, in Japan with the J League rights, in Canada it launched with NFL rights. So every time they went into a major territory, they had some premium rights that they would go into. They then went to the US, they only had boxing. The issue with boxing was it's not on every week, or there wasn't enough content there to keep people to subscribe. Hence why their model changed more like a pay-per-view model. My fear, I guess, for DAZN on this side would be, let's say you suddenly get a load of subscribers. Let's say it all works perfectly. They've done, all the creators done their job and everyone's happy and YouTube's done their job and everything's great. What happens next? Like, how do you keep people sticky if you don't have the content? Now, this is where you would feel that, to your point, probably, will be where you'd feel the gap with content creators, right? So you then get them behind, you'd pay for behind the scenes access or something that they wouldn't put on their YouTube channel, maybe a premium offering, and put that premium offering of those content creators on the DAZN platform. Now they stick. Now you can build up onto the next World Cup. Now you can do all that stuff. The worry is it's all just going to stop. And they go, thank you, that was great. And then you've subscribed and you go, well, if I'm in the UK and DAZN, what actually do I get to watch now?
I think at this point it's less about subscribers, more about data collection, because ultimately it's all free, right? So they're now building a global database of people interested in football, for argument's sake, right? So they've got a view that in each different country, how many people potentially would watch with them if it's free. One thing as well that we didn't cover off as well is I'm not aware of any issues with DAZN streaming of any of this stuff.
There has been some.
I was there, all right, okay. I've not had any issues.
No,
and
I had issues on Sunday.
I was there a long time ago when it was known as Perform, and we had issues, and then you would have. But the reality is they've always been at the bleeding edge of what's going on, so also it's easy to sort of kick them. Like, it didn't work. Yeah, but generally speaking, they've always been doing stuff before anyone else has done it. But
They've done some great stuff. I mean,
I've not heard of any issues, but if you're telling me that.
No, there was issues. I tried watching was it Sunday? I tried. It was the end of the PSG game, I think it was. And it's just like last 10 minutes, I thought I'd log in, free account on my mobile, just try to sign up. And I got the comments feed, with all the social talking, but the video was buffering. And I mean, look, that's a different issue. And I think that's...
Yeah, sorry.
And look, I can be honest.
Did you stay with the comments feed though?
No, I didn't. I mean, I can talk about this because I actually brought down the El Clasico in DAC for 10 minutes.
Oh, I brought down
in my first week. The first week of working on DAZN, so I think I'm all right to say
I brought down the whole infrastructure one time. Anyway,
those are definitely different episodes. I think the point is they're doing the right things. I think we said earlier, 32 million seems low for if you've got basically all the best teams in the world and you could went to all the best content creators associated to that team. Surely there'll be more than 32 million. What do they do next is the big question. I think, we can admire them for doing it. Is this a template that other people should follow? I think parts of it is, right? I think that like leading into getting content creators to help you into doing something is a good thing if it's part of a wider
and certainly, it's the conversation we're having with people, and I'm sure they are too, is like, obviously we talk about very specific platforms, but I'm seeing that more and more thinking about how do we not just distribute, but how do we involve the creators in the content we're creating as well? So
and bring it in-house.
It's more than just let's just give them access to a feed and put them in the corner. It's like, how do we actually bring them into the content we're creating? So it's even a co-production of that kind of content.
You do get all casts now. Like you do get like La Liga do stuff with all casts, and you get different views and stuff like that. But I think it's with the FIFA. I don't know. I think maybe because it feels like there's too much football and this just feels like a money grab. And I think that's. I think if we were talking about a different sport, I think maybe it'd be almost an easier conversation. If this was like, I don't know, basketball or ice hockey or something else, I think like you would be a lot more. Maybe I would be a lot more positive about what they're doing. I feel a bit like because it's football and because of all the stuff, it just feels a bit like a money grab. And I think because of that, I feel like they're trying to lean on people's credibility of the creators to help them to promote something that a lot of people aren't that interested in, rather than doing it for an authentic reason, which is actually I'm here to get the content creators in to help the fan experience and help you feel part of something.
Yeah. And that was my question about, is it just a little bit lazy? Is it just substituting what they did with their rights to broadcasters, now doing it with creators? But we were just talking about Gary Lineker and him, goal hanger. Yeah. Goal hanger now is with DAZN. Is that one of their, maybe is that an indicator that they're thinking about? How can we bring that creator model, that creator type of content closer and get data from it?
Yeah, so look, Rest is Football now is being distributed by DAZN on their, obviously, and if you go on, if anyone who hasn't been on DAZN, right, they are a multi-distributor now of other people's content channels too, and obviously Rest is Football is on there now, and obviously...
And behind a paywall?
Don't think so on the Rest is Football. I haven't tried it on there myself because I tend to listen to it as a podcast. Don't think so though. What was interesting, obviously Gary left the BBC, and the Rest is Football was being distributed by BBC Sounds. Now it's on DAZN, so it's ultimately one from one place to another in terms of distribution, and it's given it a global footprint outside of YouTube and Spotify, obviously. In return, obviously, there's now highlight rights that are going to Rest is Football for that as well. So that's going to be interesting, because normally when we see Gary, Alan, Micah talking about what's happened, it's basically with no rights. Now they've got some rights.
I think it's going to change the feel of it.
Well, it's going to be more of a visual experience, right? But ultimately, that's what any podcast is trying to do right now, because there's more money in video advertising than there is in audio advertising. So you've now got a reason to watch it in a video format rather than audio format, if that's the only thing you ever listen to, because you can actually see highlights and have them talking about it. And it's really interesting to see. I've not noticed yet whether they've done an episode yet with the highlights, unless you two have, to see them talking about the highlights, critiquing some of the footage is going to be very different for the Rest is Football than how they've done things before.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a risk to take it too far away from what's made it popular in the first instance, which is conversation between people that isn't interrupted by those
I think it's a good thing though. I credit where credit's due. I think I actually am a big believer in, like, if you're talking about, whether it's football or whether it's a news podcast or whatever it is, even if it's the rest of politics, they have the actual clip. Normally you get the sound bites, and actually visually seeing it and doing something else. You're right. There is a risk. I think the other risk is because something like sport or like football is so visual, if you've got a clip up and you're then pointing and doing, well, they should have done this, and they're doing with their kind of deep analysis that they would have done, how is that going to translate to a audio only audience?
I know the founders well. I know one of them really well, one of the founders of Goalhanger, and I know that they'll do it now for the tournament. If it doesn't work, they won't do it again. Like, they'll learn, they'll iterate, and then they'll move on. And that's how they've always been about every podcast that they've ever launched. They're comfortable with trying things out, seeing if it works. And again, what they are good at, very much like creators, is they listen to their audience. If the audience tells them it's not right, they won't do it anymore.
And again, that's one of the differences with creators, isn't it? That test and learn, pivot quickly, make your mistakes, fail fast, and move on.
It's like fast fashion, right? The speed it moves, the creators work in a similar kind of way. Try stuff out, doesn't work, to move on.
To be fair, I much would rather have seen Alan Shearer celebrating in the box park as a video clip. That would have been a much good.
There is, right. There's so many different ways of doing it, and obviously, Robbie and his team do that a lot at Arsenal Fan TV and GFN, where they're doing that in the box park, and it's amazing when you see it, and you see those creators, and then behind and all the beer going up in the air. Look, we've up. In a lot of ways as well, giving credit where credit's due. It's linear broadcasters that started doing all that kind of stuff. And then the creators realised, actually, we can take that to the next level and connect the digital and the physical audience together, which is no mean feat.
Yeah. So, our creators going to save sport?
Yes.
Or save sports media, should I say?
I mean, save's a big word, because I think you said it earlier. If you're just going to say,
if you're using them.
Yeah, if you're just using them and it goes, well, we have creators, like, we put stuff on YouTube, or we do this, or we have broadcast rights, then no. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to truly use it as a way to make fans feel belonging and actually feel part of something, and it gets you that attention in the first place to then allow you to do that, then yes. If you're just going
to... It feels like it has to be a two-way.
Yeah, it's got to be a
two-way street, doesn't it? Because creators can teach established sports media something, but similarly, there's a load that established sport or traditional sports media can teach them too.
Exactly. I think, and you said it works both ways. The box park, when the beers go up, and I think it is the right. Look, I think you have to create community. I think we've lost that. I think we've lost that community. We're in such a we talk about it like fragmented, divided. Everyone consumes things in different ways and personalized. And the thing that's got to tie it all back together is some form of bringing that community. And I think if that is a content creator or multiple content creators that aligns, that gets the same, allows the fans in the stadium and the fans watching online or fans in the pub to be able to have a conversation jointly and have a healthy, fun debate, and you all feel part of belonging of something, then that's what it should be used for. I think if you're just doing it because it's easy, because let's do a rights deal. Like it's a classic thing where you say, well, you just do a rights deal, right? We'll do a rights deal with Channel 5 or whatever. But now I think it's let's do a rights deal with creator. If you're just doing it like that and you're not going to commit to it, I think that would be my worry.
Yes.
And that's the end of this.
I think, look, and I think there'll still be a world for many years to come where traditional legacy media, the distribution it's got, right, which is in every home, will still bring people together for the big events, for the big live events.
Need someone to produce it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whether that's sports or whether that's politics or whether that's reality TV, it still has that ability to bring the audience together. Like my daughter's 14, but every time Traitors on every year, we sit down, we watch it live. Yeah, and she loves to watch that live, and it happens to be that obviously that's broadcast media, and they're able to do things in a way that creators can't do things. But I know the Sideman will probably disagree because they're doing that kind of stuff as well now. I think we're scratching the surface of what's possible on certainly on the likes of YouTube. I think we've only just started. I think there's so much growth in it. What I love is that you can have the most niche idea and it can instantly go global.
Yeah.
And what an amazing democratized world we live in. That now someone can, like, I saw a video recently of a guy in the Lake District that makes radio models, right?
Yeah.
And he got in the Guinness Book of Records because he'd made this aircraft carrier and a plane that's going to land on the aircraft carrier. And he got to the point now where he was making all the content himself, and he'd have to hire someone to help him make the content because it becomes so big. Like, imagine, like, how could you ever do that before? And
you can find your people.
And find your people. And there's millions of people around the world. Like, I really love, like, you know, airfix. So, yes, I think, to answer your question, yes, I think creators can help save sports media, but not just to do what we've always done before.
No, exactly.
To help you create new sports formats.
Yeah, new
in and around,
experiences.
Expand, get under the skin, do things that we just don't do at the moment.
It's that level of personalization, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can always find something that's going to engage you on YouTube, whether you're into crochet, cookie decorating, or
and you're not
F1 data. And I think that's the thing. I think for me, we'll see this idea of creator programs or creator labs. I think every team will have one, every league will have one. I think broadcasters already, they're acknowledging that they need one. So I think it'll probably become almost a standard feature of most sports media, is that they will have some kind of creator lab. Again, I know Juve have got one.
Exactly, I was just going to say Juve. We don't even mention that
really well. Yeah.
And look, they've made the call there in a lot of ways that most of their digital social content is going to get made by creators, right? Because they've figured,
why not?
Who's the best people to make the content that resonates with the audience, with the actual people who make the content. So, you know, Mark and the team over there saw that a few years ago, and you know, it's bold to go and do that and create the Juve Creator Lab, but they've done it. Like, we won't see even for years to come still how successful that's been, and there will be other iterations of it. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're bold and the first, other people come in then and find better ways of doing it. But the fact that they are doing it, PSG are doing a lot too, right? Yep. There's some really interesting stuff going on, and you know, I look at this stuff all the time and just think to myself, well, okay, that's something else that, every day's a school day. I'm learning there too when I read about
evolving all the time. All right, I think that's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen in next time. And let us know what you think. Do you think creators are going to save sport? You can email us on hello@attentionshift.media. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
That's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen to us next time. And do let us know what you think. Email us at hello@attentionshift.media. That's hello@attentionshift.media. Goodbye.